Commander Jake Morrison floated in the observation deck of the ESS Horizon, watching the pale blue light of Kepler 442 cast shadows across the ship's hull. The research vessel had been scanning asteroids in this system for 3 weeks, looking for rare metals that Earth's growing colonies needed. It was boring work, but Jake enjoyed the peace of deep space. "Commander, we're getting something strange on the long-range sensors," called Amy Rodriguez from the communications station. Her voice carried a note of confusion that made Jake push off from the viewport and drift toward the bridge. Lisa Carter looked up from her engineering console, her dark hair floating around her face in the low gravity. "The signal is coming from outside the system, but it's not following any known transmission pattern." Danny Brooks, their navigation officer, was already plotting the signal's origin on his star charts. "It's coming from the direction of the galactic core, about 47 light-years away. The signal strength suggests it was transmitted with massive power." Jake settled into his command chair and activated the ship's artificial gravity. The crew dropped gently to the deck as he studied the readings on his screen. "What kind of signal are we talking about?" Amy's fingers danced across her controls, isolating different frequencies. "It's encrypted, but not with any Earth algorithm I recognize. The pattern suggests it might be some kind of distress call." "Alien?" Lisa asked, moving closer to Amy's station. "Has to be," Amy replied. "No human ship is operating in that region of space." Jake felt his heart rate increase. First contact had always been a possibility during deep space missions, but actually encountering it was different than reading about it in training manuals. "How long will it take to decrypt?" "The ship's AI is working on it now," Amy said. "Maybe 6 hours, maybe 12? The encryption is sophisticated." Jake nodded and opened a channel to Earth Command. The message would take 3 days to reach home, but protocol required immediate notification of any potential alien contact. He recorded a brief report and sent it on its way. The next 8 hours passed slowly. Jake found himself checking the decryption progress every few minutes, even though Amy assured him she would announce any breakthrough immediately. Lisa ran diagnostics on every system twice, while Danny calculated jump coordinates back to Earth in case they needed to leave. Quickly, finally, Amy's excited voice echoed through the ship. "Got it! The signal is definitely a distress call, and I'm getting video." The main screen flickered to life, showing a being that was clearly not human. The creature stood about 6 feet tall, with pale gray skin and large dark eyes. Its face was elongated, almost bird-like, but it wore clothing that suggested advanced technology. When it spoke, the universal translator that Earth had developed from theoretical models managed to convert most of the words. "To any civilization receiving this message, we are the Zalani Federation. Our worlds are under attack by the Vorthic Empire. They have destroyed 12 of our colonies and are moving toward our homeworld. We have heard stories of a species called humans who possess great skill in warfare. If you're a human, please help us. We offer our star charts, our medical knowledge, and our friendship in return for your aid." The image changed to show orbital bombardment of a planet. Cities burned under energy weapons while ships fled into space. Jake watched in silence as millions of beings died on the screen. The destruction was systematic and thorough. "Our people are not warriors," the alien continued. "We have tried to defend ourselves, but we do not understand combat as others do. The Vorthic destroy everything they touch. They take our worlds and kill our children. Please, if there is mercy in your species, help us." The message ended with coordinates and technical specifications for their communication systems. Jake stared at the blank screen for a long moment. "Sir?" Amy asked quietly. "Send everything to Earth Command immediately," Jake ordered. "Include our position and status. Then start analyzing those star charts they transmitted." Lisa was already at her console studying the alien technical data. "Their technology is more advanced than ours in some areas, especially medical and environmental systems. But their weapons—" She shook her head. "They're designed for hunting animals, not fighting wars." Danny had pulled up the coordinates from the distress call. The Zilani Federation controls about 30 star systems in a cluster roughly 50 light-years from here. The Vorthic Empire appears to be much larger, stretching across hundreds of systems. Jake opened a secure channel to record his thoughts for Earth Command. Admiral Bell, we've received what appears to be a genuine distress call from an alien federation under attack by a hostile empire. The Zilani are clearly non-combatant by nature and are facing extermination. They specifically mentioned humans and our military capabilities. He paused, thinking about the implications. I recommend immediate consultation with the Defense Council. If we choose to respond, this will be humanity's first military action in alien space. The Zilani appear to have valuable technology to trade, but more importantly, they're facing genocide. Amy looked up from her analysis of the alien star charts. Commander, these maps showed jump routes we never knew existed. They could cut our travel time to the galactic core by months. What about the attackers? Jake asked. The Vorthak use brute force tactics, Lisa said, reading from the technical data. Massive ships with heavy armor and powerful energy weapons. They don't seem to use fighters or tactical missiles. Their strategy appears to be overwhelming firepower and intimidation. Jake nodded slowly. Every human child learned about the resource wars that had nearly destroyed Earth 2 centuries ago. The conflict had ended with the creation of the Terran Defense Force and a commitment to never again be caught unprepared for war. He wondered if Earth's leaders had ever imagined using those preparations to help aliens. Maintain our position and continue monitoring for more transmissions, he ordered. Amy, see if you can establish two-way communication with the Zilani. Lisa, I want a full analysis of their technology. Danny, plot courses to their territory. And back to Earth. As his crew worked, Jake stared out at the stars and wondered what humanity's response would be. The Zilani had asked for help from Earth's warriors, not knowing that every human carried the genetic memory of the species that had nearly destroyed itself in the name of survival. The distress call would reach Earth in 3 days, and Admiral Patricia Bell would have to decide whether humanity was ready to take its place among the stars as a military power. Jake suspected the answer would change everything for both species. Admiral Patricia Bell stood before the massive holographic display in Earth Defense Command, watching the alien distress call for the 5th time. The Zilani's desperate plea echoed through the war room while President Karen Williams, Defense Minister Greg Hamilton, and General Chris Martinez studied the tactical data from the S-Horizon. They specifically asked for human military assistance. President Williams said, her voice carrying the weight of a decision that would change human history, "How do they even know we exist?" General Martinez pulled up intelligence reports on his tablet. Our deep space probe missions have been active for decades. It's possible they detected our signals or encountered one of our automated surveys. Admiral Bell paused the recording and zoomed in on the footage of Vorthic orbital bombardment. Cities dissolved under energy beams while evacuation ships fled burning worlds. The Zilani Federation controls 30 systems. The Vorthek Empire spans hundreds. This is genocide on a galactic scale. Strategic Planning Director Helen Torres activated her workstation and displayed Earth's classified military assets. The room filled with data that few humans had ever seen. If we respond to this request, we'll be revealing capabilities that have been secret for 2 centuries. President Williams studied the scrolling lists of ships, weapons, and personnel. Remind me why we built all of this. The resource wars, General Martinez replied grimly. Between 2387 and 2401, humanity nearly destroyed itself fighting over water, minerals, and energy. When the fighting ended, we had learned something important. Peace only lasts when you're too dangerous to attack. Admiral Bell walked to the display showing Earth's solar system. Red dots marked the locations of hidden military installations throughout the outer planets. After the resource wars, we made a decision. Humanity would never again face extinction because we were unprepared for conflict. Helen Torres began bringing up detailed schematics. We've spent 200 years building the most advanced military force in human history. Automated shipyards in the asteroid belt. defense platforms hidden in the gas giant moons, weapons research facilities that civilians don't know exist. The display changed to show the Terran War Fleet, a collection of vessels that had never been photographed by public media. Dreadnoughts the size of city blocks floated next to carriers bristling with fighter bays. Heavy cruisers designed to survive nuclear bombardment shared space with destroyers built for speed and precision strikes. The public thinks our military is just the colonial defense ships and the patrol fleet, General Martinez explained. They have no idea we maintain a force capable of conquering star systems. President Williams absorbed the scope of Earth's hidden military power. How many ships are we talking about? The main battle fleet consists of 8 dreadnoughts, 12 heavy cruisers, 36 destroyers, and 48 support vessels, Admiral Bell replied, plus carrier groups with over 300 fighters and specialized ships for electronic warfare, reconnaissance, and logistics. Defense Minister Hamilton leaned forward in his chair. What about personnel? Do we have crews for all these ships? The Terran Defense Force maintains 50,000 active military personnel and another 200,000 in reserve, General Martinez answered. Every officer has trained on simulated combat scenarios based on theoretical alien encounters. Helen Torres brought up weapon specifications that made the room fall silent. Our primary ship weapons include plasma cannons capable of cracking planetary crusts, missile systems with thermonuclear warheads, and defensive shields designed to withstand asteroid impacts. Admiral Bell studied the Vorthek technical data from the alien transmission. According to the Zolani, the Vorthek use massive ships with heavy armor and energy weapons. They rely on overwhelming numbers and brute force tactics. Sounds familiar, General Martinez commented. Similar to the European alliance strategy during the resource wars, heavy units, direct assault, no subtlety. President Williams walked to the window overlooking the sprawling Defense Command complex. Below, thousands of personnel worked in facilities that extended deep underground. If we help the Zolani, we'll be announcing to the galaxy that humanity is a military power. The alternative is letting an entire civilization die, Admiral Bell replied. The Zolani offer advanced medical technology and star charts that could accelerate our expansion by decades. Helen Torres displayed the alien star maps on the main screen. These navigation routes could give us access to resources and colonies we wouldn't reach for another century. The medical technology alone could extend human lifespan by 50%. Defense Minister Hamilton stood and examined the fleet specifications. What would a mission like this require? Admiral Bell had already prepared preliminary plans. I recommend deploying Battle Group Alpha under my direct command. The flagship USS Retribution with Captain Ryan Phillips commanding. The carrier USS Vengeance under Captain Emma Stone. 4 heavy cruisers and 12 destroyers with full fighter complements. Timeline? President Williams asked. 3 weeks to reach Zolani space at maximum jump speed, Admiral Bell replied. The fleet can be ready to depart in 48 hours. General Martinez raised a concern that had been troubling him. This will be humanity's first combat action against alien forces. We're basing our tactics on theoretical scenarios and historical data. Our weapons technology is based on 2 centuries of continuous development, Helen Torres countered. The Vorthek appear to use conventional energy weapons and kinetic projectiles. Our defensive systems were designed to survive thermonuclear warfare. Admiral Bell activated a secure communication channel. I'm authorizing the activation of the war fleet, all personnel to report to their assigned vessels within 12 hours. President Williams turned back to the room. Admiral, you understand the implications of this decision. If we deploy our military forces in alien space, there's no going back to our previous isolation. I understand, Madam President, Admiral Bell replied. But the Zolani asked for help from humanity's warriors. They don't realize that every human carries the memory of our species' darkest period. We learn to build weapons not because we love war, but because we refuse to be victims. The holographic display showed the Terran war fleet beginning to emerge from hidden facilities throughout the solar system. Ships that had existed only in classified databases were powering up their reactors and preparing for humanity's first interstellar war. "Launch authorization granted," President Williams announced. "Admiral Bell, you have full tactical command. General Martinez, coordinate with Colonial Command for civilian evacuation protocols in case of retaliation." As Earth's most powerful military force prepared for departure, none of them knew that their response to the Zilani distress call would establish humanity as the galaxy's most feared military power and change the balance of civilization forever. The USS Retribution slid through the darkness between stars, leading the largest human military force ever assembled. Captain Ryan Phillips stood on the bridge of the massive dreadnought, watching his tactical displays as the Terran war fleet maintained perfect formation through hyperspace. Behind him, Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner monitored enemy intelligence while Communications Officer Ben Hayes coordinated with the other ships. "Fleet status report," Captain Phillips requested, settling into his command chair. "All vessels reporting green across the board," Lieutenant Commander Turner replied. "The USS Vengeance and her fighter squadrons are maintaining position on our starboard flank. Heavy cruisers are spread in defensive formation with destroyers running escort patterns." Captain Phillips nodded and opened a channel to the carrier. "USS Vengeance?" Captain Emma Stone's face appeared on his screen, her expression focused and determined. "How are your pilots handling their first deep space deployment?" "They're eager for action," Captain Stone replied. "Commander Susan Gray has been running combat simulations with her squadron leaders. Major Kevin Ross thinks his fighters can outmaneuver anything the Vorthek throw at us." Admiral Bell's voice came through the fleet communication system from her command center deep in the Retribution. "All ship commanders report to the briefing room in 1 hour. We need to discuss our approach when we reach Zilani space." Captain Phillips left the bridge in Turner's capable hands and made his way through the ship's corridors. The USS Retribution was 1 kilometer long and carried enough firepower to level a continent. Her crew of 3,000 represented the best military personnel Earth had produced in 2 centuries. They passed armories filled with weapons designed for boarding actions and laboratories where scientists analyzed alien technology, the briefing room filled with holographic projections of the other ship commanders. Captain Stone appeared alongside Captain Mike Foster of the heavy cruiser USS Thunderbolt and Captain Linda Park of the destroyer USS Lightning. Admiral Bell's image dominated the center of the room. "Intelligence update from Earth Command, Admiral." Bell began. "Our deep space monitoring stations have detected Vorthek fleet movements toward the Zilani border systems. They're concentrating forces for what appears to be a final assault on the remaining Zilani worlds." Captain Stone studied the tactical projections floating in front of her. "How many ships are we looking at?" "Preliminary estimates suggest 300 Vorthak vessels in the target area," Admiral Bell replied. "They favor large, heavily armored ships with powerful energy weapons. Their strategy appears to rely on overwhelming firepower rather than tactical maneuvering." Captain Foster leaned forward in his chair. "Our fleet totals 68 ships, will be outnumbered 5 to 1. "Numbers aren't everything," Admiral Bell responded. "Human military doctrine has always emphasized quality over quantity. Our ships are faster, our weapons are more accurate, and our crews are better trained." Lieutenant Commander Turner activated his workstation and displayed Vorthek ship schematics. Analysis of the alien transmission shows they use directed energy weapons similar to our early laser systems. Their armor appears to be conventional metal alloys rather than the composite materials we developed after the resource wars. "Captain," Phillips examined the enemy vessel designs. "They're built like fortresses. Heavy, slow, and designed to absorb damage while delivering massive firepower." "Which means they've never faced an enemy that could outmaneuver them," Captain Stone observed. "Our fighters should have a significant advantage in speed and agility." Admiral Bell brought up the fleet's planned route to Zilani space. "We'll drop out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 438 system. Intelligence suggests this is where the Vorthek are staging their final assault on the Zilani homeworld." Captain Park, commanding the destroyer USS Lightning, raised a tactical concern. If we arrive in the middle of an active bombardment, civilian casualties could be massive before we can engage the enemy. That's why we're going in fast and hard. Admiral Bell replied, no gradual approach, no negotiations. We hit them before they know we're there. The fleet continued its journey through hyperspace while crews prepared for humanity's first alien combat. In the fighter bays of the USS Vengeance, pilots ran through attack patterns against simulated Vorthak vessels. The weapons crews on every ship checked and rechecked their targeting systems. Chief Engineer Tony Walsh reported to Captain Phillips from the Retribution's massive engine room. All systems operating at peak efficiency. The new plasma cannons are ready for combat testing, and our defensive shields can handle anything short of a direct nuclear strike. Captain Phillips walked through the ship's corridors, observing his crew's preparations. Soldiers cleaned their weapons and checked their armor. Scientists analyzed every piece of Vorthak technology they could find in the alien transmissions. Medical teams prepared for casualties while studying Zilani biological data. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Zilani Federation, Communications Officer Hayes announced over the ship's internal system. Captain Phillips returned to the bridge where the main screen showed the same alien ambassador who had sent the original distress call. The being looked exhausted and desperate. Human vessels, we detect your approach to our territory. The Vorthak have begun their final assault on our homeworld. Our remaining defense ships are hiding in the planet's magnetic field, but we cannot hold them much longer. The image changed to show orbital bombardment in progress. Massive Vorthak ships hung in space above a blue-green world, their energy, weapons carving channels of destruction across continents. Zilani evacuation ships fled the planet while enemy fighters hunted them through space. We have perhaps 6 hours before our planetary shields fail completely, the alien continued. If you are truly coming to help us, please hurry. Admiral Bell's voice echoed through the fleet communication system. All ships prepare for a combat jump. We're going in immediately. Captain Phillips felt the familiar tension that came before. Battle. Tactical stations, prepare for engagement. Communications, notify the fleet that we're entering combat formation. The Terran war fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 438 system to find themselves facing the largest enemy force in human history. 300 Vorthak vessels surrounded the Zilani homeworld, their weapons systematically destroying everything on the planet's surface. All ships, this is Admiral Bell, came the command that would begin humanity's first interstellar war. Engage the enemy. Show them what happens when they threaten innocent people. The USS Retribution's plasma cannons charged for their first shot, while fighter squadrons launched from the USS Vengeance. Earth's deadliest war fleet was about to teach the galaxy a lesson about human military capability. The USS Retribution's bridge erupted into controlled chaos as Admiral Bell's battle plan unfolded across the tactical displays. Captain Phillips watched 300 Vorthak ships turn from their bombardment of the Zilani homeworld to face the small human fleet that had dared to challenge them. Enemy vessels are moving to intercept, Lieutenant Commander Turner reported from his tactical station. They're forming a standard battle line, heavy ships in front with support vessels behind. Admiral Bell's voice came through the communication system with calm authority. All ships execute pattern Delta. Captain Phillips, take your destroyer. Screen and draw their attention. Captain Stone, hold your fighters until they commit to pursuit. Captain Phillips activated his ship's combat systems and felt the USS Retribution respond like a living thing. The massive dreadnought's plasma cannons charged while its defensive shields powered up to maximum strength. Helm, take us straight at their center formation, maximum speed. The human destroyer squadron followed the Retribution in what appeared to be a suicidal charge against overwhelming odds. 12 sleek ships accelerated toward the massive Vorthak battle line while the enemy commanders prepared to crush the foolish aliens who thought they could challenge the Empire. Incoming enemy fire, Turner announced as energy beams lanced through space toward the advancing human ships. The Vorthak weapons were powerful but slow to target. Designed for bombarding stationary planets rather than fast-moving vessels. Captain Phillips watched his tactical display as the enemy fire passed harmlessly around his ships. Their targeting systems can't track us at this speed. All ships, evasive pattern 7. The human destroyers began weaving through space in coordinated patterns that confused the Vorthak gunners. Energy beams that should have destroyed the small ships instead struck empty space while the humans closed the distance to their targets. Range to enemy fleet 50,000 kilometers and closing, Turner reported. Lead Vorthak ships are turning to present their heavy weapons. Admiral Bell's voice cut through the bridge chatter. Captain Stone, launch all fighters now. Target. Their command ships. The USS Vengeance released her fighter squadrons like a swarm of angry insects. Commander Susan Gray led the first wave in her sleek interceptor while Major Kevin Ross brought his bombers in behind the initial assault. 200 human fighters accelerated past the destroyer screen toward the heart of the Vorthak formation. Captain Phillips smiled as he watched the enemy reaction. They're taking the bait. Half their fleet is moving to intercept our charge. The Vorthak had never encountered human military doctrine before. They expected the small fleet to either retreat or die quickly under concentrated fire. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that moved too fast to hit and struck with devastating precision. Commence firing, Captain Phillips ordered. As the USS Retribution entered weapons range, the dreadnought's plasma cannon spoke with voices like thunder. Bolts of contained stellar fire crossed space in milliseconds and struck the lead Vorthak vessel. The enemy ship's heavy armor, designed to resist conventional energy weapons, proved useless against human plasma technology. Direct hit on enemy. Flagship, Turner announced with satisfaction. Their shields are down and we're reading massive internal damage. The other human ships joined the attack, their weapon systems targeting critical points on enemy vessels with computer-guided accuracy. While the Vorthak fired massive energy beams that could destroy cities, the humans used precise strikes that disabled engines, weapons, and command systems. Commander Gray's fighter squadron reached the Vorthak formation and began their attack. Runs. The enemy had no experience fighting small, fast-moving targets, and their point defense systems failed to track the human fighters effectively. "This is Gray, leader," came Susan's voice over the communication system. "Enemy fighters are slower than our simulation targets. Beginning attack on their carrier vessels." Major Ross led his bomber squadron against the largest Vorthak ships, their advanced missiles penetrating enemy armor with ease. Each human fighter carried weapons that could cripple ships 10 times their size. Captain Stone watched the battle from the USS Vengeance's command center, coordinating her fighter attacks with deadly efficiency. Ross Squadron, target their engines. Gray Squadron, take out their weapon systems. Don't let them concentrate their fire. The Vorthak fleet began to falter as human tactics proved their superiority. Ships that had conquered dozens of civilizations found themselves outmaneuvered by an enemy they couldn't effectively fight back against. Admiral Bell opened a fleet-wide channel. "All heavy cruisers advance and engage. Show them what human firepower can really do." Captain Foster's USS Thunderbolt and 3 other heavy cruisers emerged from behind the destroyer screen with their massive guns blazing. These ships carried weapons designed during the resource wars when human survival depended on overwhelming firepower. "Enemy formation is breaking apart," Turner reported as Vorthak ships tried to withdraw from the devastating human assault. "Their command structure appears to be collapsing." Captain Phillips targeted the largest enemy vessel, a ship twice the size of his own dreadnought. "Fire all forward batteries. Let's see how their armor handles a full salvo." The USS Retribution's entire forward weapon array fired simultaneously, sending dozens of plasma bolts and kinetic projectiles toward the Vorthak flagship. The enemy ship's shields collapsed instantly and its armor cracked under the assault. "Enemy flagship is breaking." "Up," Turner announced as secondary explosions rippled through the massive vessel. "Hull breach on multiple decks." Admiral Bell's tactical display showed the impossible happening. The human fleet, outnumbered 5-1, was systematically destroying the Vorthak force. Enemy ships that tried to flee found themselves pursued by fighters they couldn't outrun. Ships that stood and fought discovered that human weapons could penetrate any defense. "This is Zilani Defense Command," came a transmission from the planet below. "We cannot believe what we are seeing. Your ships fight like nothing we have ever witnessed." Captain Phillips watched as another Vorthak ship exploded under human fire. "That's because we learned to fight wars against ourselves. Alien tactics are primitive compared to human military evolution. The battle that should have resulted in human defeat instead became a demonstration of why humanity had survived its own worst instincts. Ships designed to fight the most dangerous enemy in the galaxy found alien opponents almost easy by comparison. Enemy fleet is in full retreat," Turner reported as surviving Vorthak vessels fled toward the edge of the system. "Should we pursue?" "Admiral." Bell's response showed why humans had become the most feared military force in their part of space. "All ships pursue course. We finish this now." The Zilani homeworld floated beneath the USS Retribution like a wounded jewel, its blue oceans scarred by the black wounds of Vorthak bombardment. Admiral Bell stood in the observation deck watching rescue ships carry survivors from the devastated planet's surface while her fleet maintained patrol formations around the system. Captain Phillips joined her at the massive viewport, his uniform still bearing the marks of 6 hours of intense combat. "Final casualty reports are in. We lost 2 destroyers and 14 fighters. The Vorthak lost 237 ships. Acceptable losses for our first alien engagement," Admiral Bell replied, though her voice carried the weight of every human life lost in the battle. "What about the surviving Vorthak forces?" "Captain Stone's fighters tracked them to the edge of the system before they jumped to hyperspace," Phillips reported. "Intelligence estimates no more than 60 ships escaped, and most of those were damaged." Through the viewport, they watched Zilani rescue shuttles moving between the human ships and the planet below. The aliens had never seen military vessels designed with humanitarian capabilities in mind, and they marveled at the human fleet's medical facilities and evacuation equipment. Chancellor Vrex's image appeared on the communication screen. The Zilani leader's elongated features showing exhaustion and gratitude. "Admiral Bell, our people owe you a debt that can never be repaid. You have saved our entire civilization from extinction. We did what any civilized species should do when faced with genocide," Admiral Bell replied. "The question now is what happens next." The Chancellor's expression grew concerned. "Our intelligence networks report that the Vorthak Empire is mobilizing their core fleets. They will send everything they have to destroy both our species." "Captain," Phillips studied the tactical displays showing Vorthak territory. "How many ships are we talking about?" "Perhaps 1,000 vessels," Chancellor Vrex answered. "Led by Supreme Commander Thax and the Imperial Guard. These are their most experienced crews and advanced ships." Admiral Bell felt a familiar sensation. The same feeling she had experienced during the final battles of the resource wars when humanity faced extinction. "When will they arrive?" 3 weeks, perhaps 4 if we are fortunate," the Chancellor replied. "Admiral, I must ask you to consider retreat. Your species has done enough. There is no shame in preserving your own people." Captain Phillips looked at Admiral Bell and saw the expression that had made her the youngest fleet commander in human history. "Chancellor, you don't understand humans very well yet. We don't retreat from bullies." Admiral Bell activated her command console and opened a secure channel to Earth. "Emergency priority message to Defense Command. Request immediate deployment of the entire Terran Defense Force. Full mobilization authorization requested." "Admiral," Chancellor Vrex said quietly, "you cannot fight the entire Vorthak Empire with one fleet." "You're right," Admiral Bell agreed. "That's why we're bringing more ships." The response from Earth came faster than anyone expected. President Williams herself appeared on the secure channel, flanked by General Martinez and Helen Torres. "Admiral, we've been monitoring your engagement. Congratulations on humanity's first interstellar victory." "Thank you, Madam President," Admiral Bell replied. I'm requesting full mobilization. The Vorthak are sending their main force. Already approved, President Williams answered. Every ship we have is being prepared for deployment. You'll have the entire Terran Defense Force within 2 weeks. Captain Phillips felt his heart rate increase as he realized the scope of Earth's response. The Terran Defense Force included not just the war fleet, but defense platforms, automated weapon systems, and experimental ships that existed only in classified reports. Helen Torres appeared on the screen with specifications that made even veteran military officers pause. We're deploying 412 ships, including the experimental dreadnoughts from the Titan shipyards. The new vessels carry weapons that have never been tested in combat. What kind of weapons? Admiral Bell asked. Gravitational disruptors? Quantum torpedoes and something our scientists call a stellar compression cannon, Torres replied. Weapons designed to fight enemies we hope never to encounter. Chancellor Vrex watched the human conversation with growing amazement. Your species prepared for conflicts of this magnitude? General Martinez answered with the grim wisdom of human history. Chancellor, we prepared for much worse. The resource wars taught us that the universe contains enemies willing to destroy everything rather than accept defeat. We built our military to face those enemies. Admiral Bell turned back to the Zelani leader. We need detailed intelligence on Vorthak fleet compositions, their base locations, and their command structure. This won't be a defensive battle. You intend to attack their territory? Chancellor Vrex asked in surprise. Captain Phillips smiled, with an expression that would have been familiar to any human military historian. Chancellor, we don't just defend against threats. We eliminate them. The next 2 weeks transformed the Zelani system into the largest military staging area in galactic history. Human ships arrived daily from Earth, each one representing technology that had been hidden from civilian populations for centuries. The locals watched in amazement as vessels the size of cities took positions throughout their star system. Captain Stone coordinated fighter operations from the massive carrier USS Dominance, a ship that dwarfed her previous command. We now have over 2,000 fighters and bombers. Every pilot who graduated from the academy in the last 10 years is here. The experimental ships were the most impressive. The USS Annihilation stretched 2 kilometers from bow to stern and carried enough firepower to sterilize entire planets. Her sister ships USS Devastation and USS Obliteration completed a battle group designed to face threats that could destroy star systems. When Supreme Commander Thax arrived with his 1,000-ship fleet, he expected to find the scattered remains of a minor alien force. Instead, he discovered 400 human vessels arranged in combat formations that demonstrated centuries of tactical evolution. This is Admiral Bell of the Terran Defense Force, came the transmission that changed galactic history. You are in violation of civilized conduct. Surrender immediately or face the consequences. Supreme Commander Thax responded with the arrogance of a species that had conquered hundreds of worlds. Primitive aliens, you face the might of the Vorthak Empire. Prepare to join the civilizations we have destroyed. The battle that followed lasted 18 hours and ended with the complete annihilation of the Vorthak Imperial Guard human weapons. That had been theoretical concepts became terrible reality as gravitational disruptors tore enemy ships apart at the molecular level. When the fighting ended, Chancellor Vrex stood beside Admiral Bell watching the debris field that had once been the galaxy's most feared military force. What happens now? Admiral Bell looked out at the stars where human ships were already beginning their advance into former Vorthak territory. Now the galaxy learns why humanity spent 2 centuries preparing for war. We're going to make sure this never happens again.